Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a quick color and chat. I want to talk about Prismacolors or Polychromos. I am going to be working a little bit on the picture that I have here while I talk to you, but I'm not really super focused on it, so probably won't get very far. I just recently got some Polychromos. I've waited a really long time for them. And I want to be completely fair and upfront and let you know that I have probably a couple thousand hours on my Prismacolors. I'm on my second or third box of them. I don't know. I go through a crazy amount of colored pencils. So everybody was talking about the Polychromos and I wanted to give them a shot. I only have about a half a dozen hours on the Polychromos, but I think I've used them enough that I can tell you some of the benefits and features, and at the end of this video I'll tell you which one I definitely prefer because there are differences in the pencils. All right, so the top of this image up here was done with the FABER-CASTELL Polychromos. Let me pull one out to show you. And then the bottom part of this image was done with Prismacolors. I'm trying to find a bigger pencil for you. Couple differences to go through real quick is the quality of the pencils. What Prismacolor is lacking, you'll find in FABER-CASTELL, and vice versa. The pencils, the FABER-CASTELL pencils are heavier. The wood feels superior. The grip in my hand feels nicer. I definitely love this gold writing and brim on it, and then of course the ends are covered where you don't get that in the Prismacolors, so the core is covered. Also, most of the colors match the color of the barrel pretty well, which is definitely a positive. The biggest problem you have with Prismacolors, or I've had, is the cores break a lot. So I'm constantly sharpening my pencil and the cores are constantly breaking. So you don't want to drop these. You want to make sure they're super protected at all times. And even then, you're going to just have pencils with bad cores. A lot of times they're not perfectly centered in the middle, and that's what causes the cores to be bad. I think that your preference on color pencils is going to depend on how long you've actually been using colored pencils. If you're a new user, then I definitely have my recommendations. If you're a long-time user, I would say probably FABER-CASTELL definitely has their place. The FABER-CASTELLs are oil and wax, where the Prismacolors are just wax-based. The Prismacolors are like coloring with butter. They're so soft and smooth as you put them down. So you're constantly having to sharpen the edge. You cannot get a really solid detail with a Prismacolor without having a super sharp edge, and you're going to have to keep continuing to sharpen them to get that edge. Where the Polychromos kind of keep their edge a lot longer. You can really get into the details with them. So that's definitely a pro on the side of the Polychromos. You can definitely get into the smaller details where the Prismacolors, I feel like you don't have as much control. You tend to go a little bit outside the lines, especially in the smaller places, where with the polys, I have more control. My personal preference would probably steer me closer to the Prismacolors because there's a lot I like about them. I like the pigmentation. They're very vivid and bold and bright, and I definitely like that. The FABER-CASTELLs also have really good pigmentation. That said, you have to build up the color on it. And the layering on this took about 4 hours. It took so long to build up the color to get it so you could even see it on the camera. Again, it's your personal preference, but I would say the FABER-CASTELLs are more for an advanced user, somebody who's been coloring for a really long time, knows what they want to do, and is willing to take the time to work up the project with this pencil. I don't think it's super user friendly. I guess if you just started with it and you didn't know the difference, then it would be good, but I definitely think the polys are for somebody who's been coloring for a while with colored pencils, where the Prismacolors, you pick them up and you just kind of get what you need. So I definitely think that if you're just starting out and you're looking for a really, really decent pencil, that the Prismacolors is probably the best bet. I intend to use both, and I have a little bit on this image, like in this area and these. I used the Polychromos. In the main part of the ship, I used the Prismacolors. Again, they lay down really, really smoothly, and I felt like when I was doing this up here with the Polychromos, I was missing my Prismacolors. But when I get into the area like this over here, the Prismacolors, because they're so smooth, they have like a really soft edge on them. You tend to not get the detail you need at the crisp, clean edges. You don't get that with them without a lot of work. Also, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you on this, but I'll try. When you're working with the Prismacolors, when you first lay down your first really light layer, see, I just went outside the line there. I don't know if you can see this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. When you're first laying down your layer with your Prismacolors, a lot of times you can see little white dots in the paper still. Like it doesn't fully get into the tooth of the paper. So you definitely have to layer them. I don't know if you can see that. It actually looks pretty good here, but it's not. There's a lot of little white dots where it's not in the tooth of the paper. And if you layer it, the more you put on there, obviously, the less of that you're seeing. So you have to do a lot of layers, well, not as many as with the FABER-CASTELLs, to cover up the tooth of the paper. With the Polychromos, I feel like it does a much better initial layer. It gets into those little spots where the Prismacolors did not. So like that looks like 2 layers versus 1. So the polys do a much better job of that. That said, the Prismacolors, where it really stands out, is in blending. You can get, it's so much easier to blend with the Prismacolors, in my opinion, than it is the polys. Polys are really, really, really difficult to blend, especially the darker colors. And the lighter colors on the polys are really difficult in picking up the saturation of the color. You have to put a lot of layers on for that to happen. Dark colors aren't as bad on the Polychromos as the lighter colors, but I can't do a lighter color or you won't see it. But if you look at the difference there, it is way easier to blend the Prismacolors over the polys. So again, if you're doing the lighter layers, this took me forever. This one little spot here took me over an hour, where I could have probably done that in 10 or 15 minutes with my Prismacolors. I love the finished product. I love how it looks when it's done. But if I told you, there's probably 20 layers of color on there just to get that little bit of color. Where down here, there's only maybe 4 or 5 layers to get those, you know, the color like that. So I would definitely suggest, if you're brand new to colored pencils and you're just looking for something that you can get pretty decent quality, I really think the Prismacolors are a better choice initially than the Polychromos. Again, I love the polys. They're great for details and smaller areas and edges, nice crisp clean edges, fur, stuff like that, where you're going to keep the tip nice and sharp and you need it to stay sharp. The Prismacolors are vibrant and smooth. They go down like butter. You don't have to press really hard. The pigmentation's incredible. I think I'm a Prismacolor kind of person. That said, I have been using them together and I love using them together. I think I'm getting really good results. Like right now, this is my Prismacolor and I'm just going over it with my poly on the edges because I feel like I can control the where the pencil is coloring better with the polys because it's got a nice sharp tip, and it does lay over top of the Prismacolors really, really nicely. So I wasn't expecting that, but as you can see, you can get a nice color variation like that too. So there's my opinion on Prismacolors versus Polychromos. Again, I think they both have a place in the market. I definitely like my Polychromos, but I love my Prismacolors. One of the reasons I got the Polychromos is because I found out that most of the Prismacolors are not light fast. I think out of my 150 of them, only 48 are light fast. Where the Polychromos, out of the set of 120, something like 118 of them are light fast past 50 years, and 102 are light fast past 100 years. The 48 are only light fast, I think, up to like maybe 25 years or something like that. It's really, really low. So one of the reasons I wanted the polys is because I don't want to look at my work in 10 years and everything's desaturated. So that's definitely, if you're a professional artist or something along those lines where you're selling your work, you might want to steer toward the FABER-CASTELLs because the light fast. But if you're just fooling around or just learning, doing some adult coloring, you don't really plan to sell your work or pass it down, then Prismacolors is probably a much better option for you. All right, guys, thanks for chatting with me for a few minutes. I hope this helps if you're trying to make a decision between Polychromos and Prismacolors.